What up, guys? I'm out here at All World Pickleball in Woodbury, Minnesota. And we're going to be doing some play testing of several paddles today. We're going to be comparing the Chorus Fire SX against several of these paddles that I've got in my hand. One of which is the Paddle Tek Bantam ESQ 12.7, the Chorus Shapeshifter HX. I forgot the SX at home. Sorry. The Ronbus Pulsar FXR2. The Pickleball Apes Pulse V, and the 11624 Hurache-X Control Plus. Now, I'm going to be taking some drives and drops off the ball machine over here, and really the intention of this play test is to get a feel for how this paddle feels against each of these paddles in terms of feel, in terms of power, in terms of pop off, and then in terms of the ball off the face of each of these paddles. So I'm not looking here to go, hey, this paddle sucks and this paddle's great. It's just, how do these paddles feel, comparatively speaking, to me? Completely subjective. How do they feel to me? How does the sweet spot feel? How do off-center shots feel? And so I hope this information is helpful to you as you consider buying one or more of these pickleball paddles. So I'm going to start the ball machine, and we're going to start with the Fire SX. All right, we're going to start with the Fire SX and the Paddle Tek Bantam ESQ 12.7. So first couple shots here, the Fire SX feels very stiff. Limited dwell time, decently sized sweet spot, but feels pretty decent. That one was flushed. That feels good. I feel like, so on this paddle, when you hit the sweet spot, you know it because it feels great. When you miss it, you definitely know it. Let's go to the Paddle Tek ESQ 12.7. Ooh. Slightly stiffer. Let me go back to the Fire. I missed that one. I'd say the Fire SX is definitely more forgiving and more solid feeling than the Paddle Tek ESQ 12.7. But I'd have to say, in terms of pop, goes to the Paddle Tek right here. Go back to the Fire. In terms of power, I missed that one. Sort of missed that one. Really missed that one. Come on. Jeez. Just can't get the sweet spot on this. There we go. Ball machine's pushing me back. Go back to the Paddle Tek. Slightly firmer face. Slightly. It's so tiny. When you hit the sweet spot on a Bantam, God, it just feels great. Oh. Okay. It's starting to come to me now. Paddle Tek. Chorus, come on. Ball machines all over the place. Okay, so I didn't expect this. I didn't expect these two paddles to feel similar to one another, but they feel much more similar than I thought. In fact, out of the group here, I'm willing to bet that these two are the closest in terms of feel as compared to any of those other ones down there. But we'll see. Sweet spot wise, slightly larger here. Pop and power wise, I'd give the edge to the Paddletek. Size of the sweet spot, fire, the way, the stiffness, feeling of each paddles, it's so close. If I had to give you an answer, which of these is stiffer, it's this one, but it's so marginal. It is so marginal. You can definitely feel the difference between these paddles when you hit the sweet spot on these drives. It sounds different. This is much more higher pitch. This is a slightly lower thud, slightly lower, but it's remarkable to me how similar these paddles. It's remarkable to me how similar these paddles feel. Okay, so now we're going to compare and play test the Fire SX against the Shapeshifter HX. Again, I forgot the SX at home, like a bozo. Let's go. Let's start again with the Fire SX. Again, stiffer, feeling off the face. I cannot say that this sweet spot is extra large. If anything, it feels quite average for a standard or wide body shape. Let's go to the HX. Okay, way softer. Way softer. Still good power, but I'm getting Pulsar vibes out of this one, especially as compared to the Fire. Let's go back to the HX. Yeah, stiffer feel. HX Shapeshifter. Definitely softer feel. I can feel some ball pocketing or dwell time here. I'm having a hard time feeling that on the Fire. It's there. It's just harder to feel, which I guess means there's just a bit more pocketing on the HX Shapeshifter. I'll do some drops. Okay. Felt good. Way softer. Back to the Fire. Missed it. Got it. Okay. So, I mean, obviously we're talking about two different shaped paddles here, but stiffer, softer. It's not soft, it's just softer than the SX. We're going to see how soft this is compared to some of these other paddles, but comparing these two, I'm going to go with smaller sweet spot here, bigger feeling sweet spot here. In terms of drops, I feel like the shifter is easier on the drops because you're getting a lot more feedback as you're swinging through the ball than I think you get from the Fire SX. It's not terribly difficult to drop with the Fire SX. It's also not terribly difficult to drop with the Shapeshifter HX. It's just, in terms of feel, the SX is stiffer. I'm going to go with a smaller sweet spot, softer feeling, more forgiving feeling, bigger sweet spot on the HX. All right, let's go now to the next paddle on top. So we're going to hit the Fire SX and the Pulsar FX R2. So similarly shaped paddles. I'm really curious how these will feel side by side. All right, ball machine started. We'll start again, as always, with the Fire SX. Okay. One more. All right, going to the Pulsar. Fire. These two are the most similar in terms of tone. To me, in this space. Let me just drive one hard here. Okay, one more with the SX. Okay. So the Ronbus Pulsar FX-R2, I didn't intend to do this, but the Pulsar FX-R2 feels, in terms of feel of the ball off the paddle face, feel in terms of the sweet spot, feel in terms of dwell time. The Pulsar FX-R2 feels the most similar to me to the Shapeshifter HX. Feels very, very, very similar to me. Softer, stiffer, no surprise. Smaller sweet spot, bigger sweet spot. So I don't have my radar gun with me, but I would think that the Fire SX is producing more power, but not like lights out. You can totally notice it power. It still feels very, very stiff, and in comparison, this is very soft. In my opinion, so is the Shifter HX. In terms of size of the sweet spot, smaller sweet spot, that's the way it feels to me. Bigger sweet spot, 16 millimeter, so is the Shifter. So that's not, shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But yeah, drives and drops felt really, really good with both these. Still feels good with the Fire SX. I just feel like the Fire SX is, it's definitely, it's harder to control. It's not in a mod TA15 or Ronbus Ripple hard to control. I think throughout the paddle test so far, what I'm noticing is that the Fire SX is not giving me the amount of feedback that I want as compared to these other paddles, including the Bantam ESQ-C, which is likely due to just its construction. Like it's a multi-piece cold press paddle that when you've missed something. I mean, you still know on the Fire SX that you've missed something. So I'm really having a hard time describing like what I'm missing in terms of feedback when I'm put on the spot here, that I'm getting from the Shifter and I'm getting from the Pulsar. Maybe it's that the feedback is too abrupt. Maybe it's not that I'm not getting it. Maybe that it's just it's too abrupt and it's too jarring. Don't read more into that than I'm using words to describe. Just doing my best here to describe, how each of these paddles feels against one another, especially the Fire SX. So let's move on to the Pulse V, and we're gonna run that side by side with the Fire SX. So I think I've got a few balls left in the machine, so we're gonna run through the Fire SX first, and then we'll switch over to the Pulse V. Just going through the palette cleanser here. All right, let's go to the Pulse V. Interesting. Now this is a never been hit Pulse V. So off the bat, it is easier for me to find the sweet spot on the Pulse V. It feels like a much more balanced paddle. Like I'm not quite catching the sweet spot every single time on this SX. Pulse V feels plusher to me. Let's just compare that to the shifter real quick. Okay, Pulse V. That one felt stiff because I missed it. Got that one. Realize my form is way off here because this ball machine's pushing me everywhere and I'm trying to stay in the shot. Okay, back to the shifter. One more with the shifter, go back to the fire. Okay, stiffer, shocker. And we've got the Pulse V. Missed that one. Back to the fire. Can you hear that difference? Okay. Stiffer, more pop, more power, smaller sweet spot. Less stable than this. Very good size sweet spot. Good pop, good power, not as much as this. Now this is not opened up. This is brand new. I just got this today. Very, very stable, not as stable. Smaller sweet spot, bigger sweet spot. More power and pop, a bit less power and pop. Overall, two still very good paddles. So let's move on to the last and final paddle in this series, the 11624 Hurache-X Control Plus. Ball machine started. Let's see how these paddles stack up. Now this is a carbon fiber, fiberglass carbon fiber surface against the Chorus Fire SX. So again, good power on drives. I think this paddle is going to need weight. Weight for stability, weight for plow through. And weight to increase the size of the sweet spot, which I find to be smaller than those other standard shape paddles. All right, let's go to the Hurache-X. Ooh, interesting. So the Hurache-X definitely has more dwell time, so the Hurache-X definitely has more dwell time, more ball dwelling, and I can see the ball dipping on these drives considerably. It's a completely different shaped paddle, but well, let's drop in two. That one was flushed. Okay, Hurache-X. Softer, butterier, is that a word? Butterier feel. With very, very good plow through. It's a different shaped paddle. This one requires a bit more to plow through. It just needs some weight. Smaller sweet spot, bigger sweet spot. If you can believe that. That felt good. So I'm going with stiffer. Shocker, right? Stiffer, more jarring feedback. More jarring feedback, especially on off-center hits. Compared to the Hurache-X. Just butterier. I know one of you asked me to compare these two. I mean, they're just completely different. So, okay, again, stiffer feeling than the Hurache-X Control Plus. More dwell time, more ball pocketing. I feel less dwell time, feel less ball pocketing here. I feel a bit more jarring feedback than here, where I feel more, I was going to go with informative feedback, but like, you know, when you miss the sweet spot here and the result isn't so bad, and you definitely know when you miss the sweet spot here and the result is not so great. So that's the Chorus Fire SX. I mean, we've compared them to a bunch of paddles here. In terms of feel, the Fire SX, in my opinion, feels closest to these two, the Bantam ESQ 12.7 and the Pulse V, in terms of the way the ball feels off the face of these paddles. In some cases, the tone. I would say that I feel a bit more, I didn't even want to say this. Maybe there's a bit more, I feel more ball pocketing feedback on the 12.7. Maybe if I spent some more time with it, but that's just my reaction right now in the moment. And you definitely get feedback, and you get a whole lot of stability from the Pulse V from Pickleball Apes. If I had to narrow them down to two, what two paddles feel most close, it's these two. It's the Bantam ESQ 12.7 from Paddletek. Feels the closest to me than the Fire SX. And that's mind-blowing to me, because I was going to bring and compare it in this series the 14.3. So I thought that's going to be the closest, but somebody in the Discord asked me to swap that out for the 12.7, so I did that. So there you have it. Chorus Fire SX. Okay, so for the next test, we are going to run the Chorus Shapeshifter HX against the Chorus Fire HX. Ball machine started and moved back a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't affect the shot. We're going to start with the Fire HX. All right, first shot feels just like the SX, which is what you'd expect, right? So it feels stiffer to me. I'm getting more jarring feedback. Not like there's something wrong with this paddle way. It's just, it's more jarring. It's not like, this is not absorbing the shot, if that makes sense. All right, back to the shifter, or over to the shifter. This feels more absorbing. Softer, not nearly as stiff of a feel. If I had to guess, I'd say there's more shot shaping ability in this, which I guess makes sense. It's called the Shapeshifter. More ball bending. That was in. That was in. Okay, Fire HX. stiffer feel, less dwell time, no ball pocketing. If anything, limited ball pocketing feel. Over the shifter. That's butter. So if I had to compare the shifter, in fact, let's just do it. We'll go shifter and in the Hurache. Okay, Hurache. Ooh. Very, very similar feeling in terms of firmness. Let me try the Pulsar. Try the Pulsar and shifter. Shifter. Okay. 100%. These two. Out of everything that we've just play tested, these two feel the most similar to me. If you're looking for similarities in terms of surface, in terms of how the ball feels off the surface of the paddle, in terms of firmness, in terms of ball pocketing, in terms of dwell time, these two feel very, very similar to me. Like I said, I don't have the radar gun out here, so I don't know what pop and power looks like. It's just they feel very, very similar to me. Oops. This one, I'd say a bit more, maybe slightly firmer feel, not stiff, slightly firmer. Also very buttery compared to the shifter, which is also buttery, a little more buttery. I think that fiberglass layer really adds an interesting benefit here too. But if I recall correctly, there's a layer of fiberglass in here as well. Someone's going to fact check me on that. So I'm not claiming that for a fact. I thought I read that somewhere. In terms of the Fire-H-X and the Shifter-H-X. So, I mean, as expected, guys, this is stiffer. This feels firmer. It's less, doesn't feel great on off-center hits. This feels good, better on off-center hits. I'm getting more power off the Fire-H-X. I feel like I can tell the ball's coming off hotter as expected. I mean, it's a 14mm core as compared to a 16mm core. But yeah, less ball pocketing, less dwell time, more ball pocketing, more dwell time. So if I had to pick right now which of these two would suit my game better, I'm going with the shifter. Like the Fire-H-X is a bit too, it's not giving me the feedback that I want. It gives feedback. I just don't like the way it gives feedback. If that makes any sense. Hopefully somebody in the comments will tell me if that makes sense. Or if I'm off my rocker, which could be the case. Shifter feels to me, the shifter suits my game more than the Fire-SX. And so, that's why Chorus is creating multiple lines, everybody's got a different game. And I'm just one opinion. So we're going to move on. We are going to play test the Vatic Pro Flash 16mm against the Hurache-X Alpha from 11.624, the Paddletek Bantam ALW 14.3, the 11.624 Hurache-X, that's the Jelly Bean. And somebody asked for the Pulse V. So it's a bit odd of a shape to have in this sequence, but you asked for it, so we're going to do it. Really what I'm looking to understand here is how these paddles stack up against one another. Not in terms of, hey, this one's better than the other, but just how do they feel as compared to one another. So I want to know, I want to know how the Saga Flash feels against each of these paddles in terms of general feel, which is completely subjective. in terms of ball pocketing, in terms of perceived dwell time, in terms of how the ball feels off the face in drives. And so we're going to start the ball machine up here right now. And the first paddle that we're going to play test is the 11624 Hurache-X Alpha 1. So here we go. We will start with the Flash 16 millimeter. So on a scale of 1 to 5, no, let's go on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being soft and 10 being stiff. This is a 4 or 5. All right, let's go to the Hurache-X control. Sorry, Hurache-X Alpha. Slightly stiffer feel. I'd say the ball's coming off a little bit hotter, but still plush. Go back to the Flash. Whew. Slightly firmer. Okay, so right off the bat, I can tell the 11624 Hurache-X Alpha 1 is a poppier paddle. The ball's coming off a bit hotter. I feel like there's less dwell time, a bit less ball pocketing, but I feel that inertia of the ball coming off the paddle. The Vatic Pro Saga Flash 16 millimeter feels like a more dense paddle. I don't know how else to describe it. Not in a bad way. It just feels like I'm swinging more substance. I don't know yet what's inside the core. I don't think there's any perimeter foam. I don't know. You can fact check me. But the Hurache-X Alpha 1 feels more maneuverable, agile in my hands, less dense, but not hollow. This feels more like you're swinging more substance, if that makes sense. In terms of plushness, this feels a bit more plush. It's not soft. This still feels plush. It's just not as soft of a feeling as the Saga Flash 16 millimeter. We're going to move to the Paddletek ALW-C 14.3 and just hit that side by side to the Vatic Pro Saga Flash 16 millimeter. So here we go. Okay, so really stable feeling, even on off-center hits. I'm getting good feedback from the paddle on off-center hits. And the good news is that those off-center hits are still relatively on track, except for that one. All right, switching to the Paddletek. Okay, so in terms of playability, there's more power and pop coming off the Bantam ALW-C 14.3. There is more shot shaping ability coming from the Paddle Tek Bantam ALW-C 14.3. This is not nearly as stable as this. In terms of plow through, the Flash Saga takes the cake. There's just, this isn't thermoformed. Neither of these paddles are thermoformed, from what I understand. But this feels more thermoformed to me, which is a bit trippy. Because this, you can almost, on the hits, you can almost feel the multiple pieces that comprise the paddle itself, if that makes any sense. So like coming from baseball, if there's any baseball players out there and you're used to playing with an aluminum bat and then you go to like a 2-piece bat or a 3-piece bat, you know the feel difference of those paddles. That's how I feel alternating between these two. Definitely a smaller sweet spot. Definitely a bigger sweet spot. Definitely more stable. Definitely not as stable, but still pretty good. But the power and pop, I'd say, goes to the Paddletek. Plow through probably goes to this, but I'm not really testing that right now. Yeah, I was surprised how similar that these feel compared to one another, except for that stability issue on off-center hits. And of course the shot shaping ability. So interesting comparison to run these side by side. Now, hey, all right, hey, now let's move on to the Jelly Bean. Now if I recall, there's not a whole lot of information about how this is constructed. Rumor has it they're somewhat similarly constructed in that there's no gen associated to this. And I believe that Saga, Vatic Pro is claiming this is more of a Gen 1.5 construction, which means it's just got edge foam. I don't know if this does. And I haven't played this side by side, but we're gonna do it now. So ball machine started. We'll start with the Flash, take a couple shots off that, and move on to the Jelly Bean, Hurache-X. All right, let's move to the Jelly Bean. Ooh. So, you know, when I first hit this a few days ago, I thought, I feel like I'm swinging a Jelly Bean with a little more plow through, having not hit the Jelly Bean in a couple weeks. And I think I was right. Out of all the paddles that we've hit so far, these two feel the closest to me. I don't know what else to say. I think if I had to tell you right now which one's got more power and pop, it's a slight edge to the Jelly Bean. Slight. But if I had more time with both of them, I could see my opinion changing. But I'm really, really surprised at how similar these paddles feel, which is kind of cool. Also very interesting. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Similar dwell time, similar ball pocketing feel, similar feel of the ball off the face. These two paddles just feel very similar to me. Cool. All right. And, okay. So somebody wanted to see how the Flash and the Pulse V stack up. So let's start the ball machine, take 3 shots off the Saga or so here, and then we'll go to the Pulse V. I'm expecting this to feel firmer. So let's see. Okay, Pulse V. You gotta be kidding me. I missed that one. Huh. Okay. Okay. I got it. Stiffer feeling. Less dwell time. Less ball pocketing. Very, 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 very stable. More ball time. More dwell time. More ball pocketing. Slightly plusher feel. Stiffer feel. I paused there for a second because I was like, there's no way those 2 shots felt that close to each other. But after a couple more, I could feel the ball pocketing less over here, slightly less. I can't quantify it. It's just, you know, hitting these things side by side, you know, one shot after the next, you can just feel the difference. I'm trying to find the words to describe it other than a bit stiffer, a bit less dwell time, a bit less ball pocketing, a bit less plush. And then the opposite is true for all of these things, with a bit in front of it. In terms of stability, this is a very, very stable paddle, and this is a very, very stable paddle. That's all I'm going to say. All right, we're going to move on. Okay, I think this might be our last test. All right, this is going to be a simpler test. We want to compare the Saga V7, the elongated shape, against the Pulse E. So, here we go. Now, I haven't hit this one all that much. And I only hit this one during speed tests. So, I'm going to be playing it more tonight because I'm writing up a review on it. But we're going to hit a few drives now and compare them to the drives on the Pulse E. So here we go. We will start with the Saga V7, 16 millimeter. Similar weight in my hands. I'm looking to see where I hit. Okay, that's a sweet spot. Huh. All right, let's go to the Pulse E. Missed that one. Missed that one too. Got that one flushed. Okay. So firmer feeling, softer feeling. This is not soft. It's just softer feeling than the Pulse E from Pickleball Apes. In terms of, anecdotally, in terms of power off these drives, I feel like the Saga V7 is giving me more output. Balance-wise, in my hands right now, these paddles feel very, very similar. Very, very similar. The feedback you get, the feedback that I'm getting from the Pulse E is more jarring. And don't take that as like off the deep end jarring. It's just more jarring than the V7 16 millimeter here. I feel more ball pocketing. I feel more dwell time. I feel that the Saga V7 here is softer feeling. It's more plush than the Pulse E. These two, in terms of stability, I would say they're equals. I cannot say that this is more stable than this or this is more stable than this. Which, if you consider the gen makeup of this, is it's kind of interesting, right? In terms of shot shaping, because this feels stiffer, I'm not getting as much movement on my shots as I am with the Saga, but like it's marginal. Like don't use that as a buy this or that decision. I'm just, you know, trying to explain on these dozen or 2 dozen shots how shot shaping felt. But yeah. So the Vatic Pro V7 16 millimeter paddle to me feels just plush, well-rounded, very, very stable, as stable and as controllable as this Pulse E. So if you like a softer, more plush feel without, I think, sacrificing power, and you can go look at my paddle database to confirm that, check out the Saga V7. If you like a stiffer feel with the kind of feedback that comes along with that in a highly controllable paddle, in a very stable paddle, check out the Pickleball Apes Pulse E. So yeah, all in all, that's it. You know, I hope all this information, guys, has been helpful. So if you have any questions, you guys can hit me up on Discord, shoot me an email at hi@mattspickleball.com, or you know, post in the comments below wherever this video is posted. So thanks for watching.